Chapter 1: The Seal of a Dead Brother. The cracked jade seal lay between Zhao and Shen Yu like a small green tomb. Rain whispered beyond the residence windows. The capital had spent the day arguing over the imperial inquiry, Duke An's cleared name, Wei Guang's collapse, and the Crown Prince's public request for alliance. By night, every tea house had invented a different reason why Lady Zhao now stood at the center of court. None of those reasons mattered inside her study. Here, only the seal mattered. Dark jade, one broken corner. The character Shen carved so cleanly that the old master's hand could still be felt in the stroke. Shen Yu stood across the desk without his fan. That made him look less useless. It also made him look more alone. "My brother carried this the night he died," he said. "The palace record says the seal burned with him." And Zhao touched the cracked edge, but Wei Guang had it. Hidden in his boot. For 3 years. Yes. Chun-Yi stood near the door, pretending not to listen while listening with her entire body. Madame Liang sat by the brazier, face calm, embroidery untouched in her lap. Duke An had been ordered to rest after the inquiry and had obeyed only because Madame Liang had placed 2 guards outside his study. Outside this room, men would call the matter a ministry case. Inside it, and Zhao understood the truth. This was no longer only about forged northern ledgers. This was about the machinery that had killed her in the first life, before she had even known its shape. Shen Yu placed a folded copy of Wei Guang's statement beside the seal. He claims he found it among old evidence after the fire. Do you believe him? I believe he is afraid of the truth, and therefore willing to stand near lies. Madame Liang looked up, a useful description of many officials. Shen Yu bowed slightly. And Zhao unfolded the statement. Shen Jun, elder son of the Shen family, had died 3 years ago in a fire near the West Archive. The official report blamed a fallen lamp. The body was identified by robe fragments, a belt hook, and the absence of any reason to doubt the palace. And Zhao read the final line twice. No reason to doubt the palace. In her first life, those words had killed more people than swords. What was your brother investigating? She asked. Shen Yu's mouth tightened. Palace supply theft. Only theft. At first. The answer entered the room carefully. And Zhao waited. Shen Yu looked at the brazier flame instead of her face. Then he found medical records tied to a dead princess. Then a sealed memorandum about succession witnesses. Then he sent me a message telling me to forget every joke he had ever made about useless younger brothers and leave the capital. Chun-Yi's eyes widened. Madame Liang stopped moving entirely. And Zhao felt the old cold palace wind slide along her spine. Did you leave? She asked. Shen Yu smiled faintly. It held no humor. No. Of course he had not. Some people survived by running. Some survived by pretending they were too harmless to kill. And Zhao looked at the seal again. Why hide as a useless scholar? Because useful men die when powerful people are afraid. Useless men are invited to stand near doors. And listen. And remember. The rain thickened. Madame Liang finally set down her embroidery. If the Empress's faction killed your brother over succession records, then the forged northern ledger was not the beginning. No, Shen Yu said, it was a method repeating. And Zhao knew repetition. Poisoned gifts, forged letters, convenient illness, servant confessions, men who benefited from cruelty while calling themselves uninformed. Her first life had been built from repeating parts. The dead princess, and Zhao said, who was she? Shen Yu's gaze returned to her. Princess Zhao Ming, the emperor's younger sister. She died before the crown prince was named heir. Madame Liang inhaled softly. And Zhao did not know the name well. In both lives, Princess Zhao Ming had been mentioned only as a gentle woman lost to winter fever. The palace had mourned her for 7 days, then folded her into ancestral silence. Shen Yu continued. My brother believed her household held testimony about the night Empress Wei secured her son's position. Testimony against the Empress. or against the legitimacy of how Zhao Ming became crown prince. The words landed heavily. If the Empress had forged the path to Zhao Ming's title, then exposing her could shake the succession itself. That was why she had moved against the Wen family. That was why she wanted the northern army stained before the truth emerged. A throne with a questionable heir needed either obedience or fear. Empress Wei had tried to secure both. A servant entered after a soft knock. "My lady, His Highness the Crown Prince has arrived." Chunyi muttered, "At night." Madame Liang's expression cooled. And Zhu looked at Shen Yu. For one moment, the old question hovered. How much should Zhao Ming know about the machinery that had made him crown prince? Shen Yu answered before she spoke. "If we hide this from him, his mother will use his ignorance again." And Zhu nodded slowly. "Then we let him choose with open eyes." Zhao Ming entered the study without flowers, gifts, or apology. He had learned at least that much. His gaze fell on the cracked seal, then on Shen Yu's face. "What is this?" And Zhu folded her hands. "The beginning of the case your mother killed a man to bury." Zhao Ming went still. There was a time when Zhu would have softened those words for him. That girl had died in the cold palace. This woman watched him face the truth. Zhao Ming stepped forward and looked at the seal of a dead brother. Outside, rain washed the capital clean enough to lie again by morning. Inside, the final case opened. Chapter 2: The Palace Fire That Lied. The palace fire had been written as an accident. That was the first proof it was not one. Accidents in the palace were never allowed to remain simple. A fallen lamp required 3 witness statements, 2 punishment records, a eunuch demoted for negligence, and a memorial praising imperial mercy for not executing the entire night watch. Shen Jun's fire had produced only 1 page. And Zhu read it in the Ministry of Justice archive while Shen Yu stood beside her, face blank enough to frighten anyone who knew him. Crown Prince Zhao Ming waited near the door with 2 guards and a silence he had earned. 1 page, and Zhu said. Shen Yu's fan appeared in his hand. He did not open it. "My brother always did enjoy efficiency." Zhao Ming looked at him. "Lord Shen." "Your Highness, do not make me ask you to stop joking about his death." The words were quiet. Shen Yu's fingers tightened around the fan. For a moment, and Zhu thought he would answer sharply. Instead, he bowed his head once. "Fair." That was the first useful thing Zhao Ming did that morning. Not evidence. Not access. Restraint in the presence of another man's grief. And Zhu noted it and gave him nothing for it. The archive clerk trembled behind a shelf. He had been woken before dawn by a crown prince, a ministry officer, and the most dangerous unmarried woman in the capital. His loyalty to procedure had lasted exactly long enough for Zhao Ming to say, "Open the West Fire records." Now the old file lay on the table. 1 page. No body sketch. No inventory. No list of recovered items. No explanation for why a ministry investigator had entered a palace archive alone at night. And Zhu turned the page over. "Blank." "Where is the night watch log?" she asked. The clerk swallowed, "Lost in the fire." Shen Yu smiled. The clerk paled further. The log for men outside the burned room was lost inside it, and Zhu asked. "That is what the record says." "The record lies badly." Zhao Ming moved to the shelf himself. There should be duplicate duty rosters in the inner court office. The clerk's eyes widened. "Your Highness, those are palace household records." "Yes." "They require Phoenix Hall approval." The room chilled. Zhao Ming looked at the clerk. "Then we have learned something already." He said it calmly, but Zhu heard the cost beneath it. Phoenix Hall. His mother's residence. Every road led there, because Empress Wei had built them that way. Shen Yu opened his fan at last. Painted cranes unfolded between his fingers. If the official route is closed, there is another. And Zhu glanced at him. "There usually is when you say that." "My reputation suffers from accuracy." "Your reputation is built on climbing through windows." Doors lately. Zhao Ming looked between them. Something like pain crossed his face, then discipline erased it. Where? He asked. Shen Yu tapped the fire record. The burned archive was rebuilt, workers were paid, timber was purchased, ash was removed, accident records can vanish, construction accounts rarely do. And Zhu almost smiled. Men who destroyed evidence often forgot to destroy receipts. Madame Liang would approve. They moved from the ministry archive to the palace works office under Zhao Ming's seal. The old construction ledgers were thicker than the death file by a humiliating margin. And Zhu found the first inconsistency before noon. The West Archive fire was recorded on the 9th day of the 11th month, she said, but replacement beams were purchased on the 7th. Zhao Ming went very still. Shen Yu leaned closer. 2 days before the accident, and Zhu continued. The works clerk began sweating. Zhao Ming took the ledger and read the entry himself. Pine beams, roof tiles, charcoal removal labor. Purchased before the fire. Who authorized payment? He asked. The clerk knelt. This low official does not know. Shen Yu pointed with his fan. The authorization seal is smudged. And Zhu bent closer. Not smudged. Scraped. Someone had removed the top layer of ink. But under the scraping, the pressure mark remained. A phoenix wing. Zhao Ming's hand closed on the ledger edge. My mother, he said. No one corrected him. The first time truth makes a sound inside a person, it is rarely loud. It is usually small, a crack in porcelain, a breath taken too late, a son's voice recognizing his mother in a crime. And Zhu had once wanted Zhao Ming to hurt. Now she only wanted him useful. This proves preparation, she said, not murder. It proves the accident was arranged, Shen Yu said. Still not enough. No. Zhao Ming looked at Shen Yu. What did your brother remove from the archive before the fire? Shen Yu's expression changed. Not much. Enough. I do not know. And Zhu studied him. But you suspect. Shen Yu closed the fan. A nursery record. Zhao Ming frowned. A nursery. Princess Zhao Ning's. The Crown Prince looked genuinely confused. My aunt died of winter fever. And Zhu said nothing. Shen Yu's voice softened into something more dangerous than anger. That is what the palace fire helped everyone remember. Outside the works office, bells rang for the noon meal. Inside, and Zhu looked at the ledger purchased 2 days before an accidental fire and understood the Empress's oldest talent. She did not merely kill people. She prepared the world to call their deaths natural. Chapter 3, A Princess No One Mourned. Princess Zhao Ning's courtyard had no name plaque. That was how the palace mourned inconvenient women. It did not destroy their rooms. Destruction created questions. It left them standing, swept clean, stripped of color, and renamed as storage for seasonal screens, broken incense burners, and old ceremonial lamps no one wished to inventory. And Zhu stood beneath the bare lintel and felt a strange ache. In her first life, the cold palace had tried to erase her the same way. Not with fire. With neglect. Zhao Ming stood beside her, looking at the empty doorway as if seeing a corridor in his own childhood rearrange itself. I remember coming here once, he said. Aunt Zhao Ning gave me sugared hawthorn. How old were you? And Zhu asked. 6. Shen Yu looked toward the overgrown courtyard. She died that winter. Zhao Ming's jaw tightened. They entered with 2 trusted guards and one old palace maid Madame Liang had found through a chain of women who remembered everything men forgot. The maid's name was Auntie Rong. She walked slowly, leaning on a cane, but her eyes were clear. Her Highness liked yellow curtains, Auntie Rong said. The Empress ordered them removed after the funeral, said the color was too cheerful. Which Empress? And Zhu asked. Auntie Rong gave her a look. Old servants knew, when young women asked questions they already understood. The current one. Zhao Ming flinched. Auntie Rong pretended not to see. The main chamber smelled of dust and old wood. Shen Yu moved along the shelves with the careful impatience of a man searching a grave, and Zhu watched the walls. Rooms remembered through repairs. A panel replaced too recently, a floor tile polished differently, a beam marked by smoke where no lamp should have stood. There was a nursery, and Zhu asked. Auntie Rong pointed her cane toward the inner room. There. Zhao Ming stopped. My aunt had no children. The old maid's mouth pressed thin. And Zhu turned to him. Are you certain? That is what I was told. You were 6. The words were gentle, by Zhu's standards. They still cut. The inner room was small and colder than the rest. A painted screen leaned against the wall. Behind it, faded marks lined the wood at uneven heights. Not storage scratches. Growth marks. A child's height recorded by careful hands. Zhao Ming stared at them. Shen Yu crouched and touched the lowest mark. 3 years old, perhaps 4. No, Zhao Ming whispered. Auntie Rong closed her eyes. And Zhu looked at the old maid. Who was the child? The cane trembled once. A girl, Auntie Rong said, Princess Zhao Ning's daughter. The room changed shape around them. Zhao Ming took one step back. Impossible, a royal child cannot disappear. Shen Yu looked at him sadly. Your Highness, royal children disappear more thoroughly than common ones when the record keeper obeys. Where is she? Auntie Rong did not answer. That was answer enough. And Zhu felt the cold palace again. A bowl of medicine, snow at the windows, a servant refusing to meet her eyes because pity was dangerous. How did Princess Zhao Ning die? She asked. Winter fever, Zhao Ming said automatically. Auntie Rong's face crumpled. Not dramatically. Old grief rarely has strength for drama. Poison, she whispered. Zhao Ming turned to her. No. Your Highness, Auntie Rong said, and for the first time she looked at him not as Crown Prince, but as the child who had once eaten sugared hawthorn in this courtyard. The princess knew someone had changed the witness record for your investiture. She knew the little princess's name was written where another name should not have been erased. She was going to tell the emperor. Shen Yu stood slowly. My brother found the nursery record. Auntie Rong nodded. Where is it now? And Zhu asked. The old maid looked toward the wall with the growth marks. Gone. Lord Shen Jun took it. He said if anything happened to him, the useless younger brother would know how to make himself useful. Shen Yu went still. For all his wit, all his masks, all his carefully chosen uselessness, those words struck him like a hand from the dead. And Zhu wanted to touch his sleeve. She did not. Not here. Not with Zhao Ming bleeding quietly beside them. Did Princess Zhao Ning's daughter have a name? And Zhu asked. Auntie Rong nodded. Zhao Lion. Zhao Ming closed his eyes. And Zhu understood the final shape then. If Zhao Lion had lived, if her name had been in the succession witness record, if Princess Zhao Ning had held proof that Empress Wei altered the path to power, then Zhao Ming's title had been protected by more blood than even he knew. Not his crime as a child, but his burden now. We need proof beyond testimony, and Zhu said. Auntie Rong opened her eyes. There is one thing. She crossed to the empty incense altar and tapped the base with her cane. Shen Yu moved first, lifting the old wood. Beneath it lay a narrow hollow. Inside was a strip of yellow silk. Not a full record. A torn edge. On it, 3 characters remained. Princess Lion. Zhao Ming made a sound, as if something inside him had finally broken in the correct place. And Zhu took the silk. A princess no one mourned had left only 3 characters behind. This time, 3 characters would be enough to begin. Chapter 4, The Crown Prince Chooses a Side. Zhao Ming did not speak until they left Princess Zhao Ning's courtyard. Even then, he said only one sentence. I need to see my mother. And Zhu stopped under the bare winter branches. Shen Yu's face cooled. Alone. The Crown Prince looked at him. Yes. How convenient for her. Zhao Ming accepted the insult. That was new. In Zhu's first life, he had treated criticism like rebellion, unless it came dressed as flattery. Now he stood in a forgotten courtyard with proof that his title had been built beside a child's erasure, and his pride had no room left to stand. "I am not going to warn her," he said. "Then why go?" and Zhu asked. He looked at her. There was no plea in his face now. Only a terrible exhaustion. "Because if I do not ask her directly, part of me will still be a son waiting for another explanation." And Zhu understood more than she wanted to. People who survived betrayal often hated themselves for wanting one last denial from the betrayer. She had wanted it too. In the cold palace, even after everything, some ruined piece of her had listened for Zhao Ming's footsteps. They never came. "Then ask," she said, "but do not go alone. She will not speak truth before witnesses. She may not speak truth at all." His mouth tightened. Shen Yu opened his fan. "I can stand behind a screen. I am decorative." "You are never decorative," Zhao Ming said. A devastating accusation. And Zhu looked between them. Men with grief became foolish in different directions. Zhao Ming wanted a mother to condemn herself. Shen Yu wanted to stand close enough to catch another crime in the act. Both could be useful. Both could die. "I will go," and Zhu said. Zhao Ming's head snapped toward her. "No." The word came too quickly. Old habit. Possessive protection, dressed as authority. And Zhu's gaze sharpened. Zhao Ming heard himself a breath too late. He bowed his head. "Forgive me, I meant it is dangerous. Everything useful is." Shen Yu's fan hit his mouth, but not his eyes. They went to Phoenix Hall at dusk. Empress Wei received them beneath golden lamps, dressed in pale green silk, hair adorned with phoenix pins that trembled when she turned her head. She looked too composed for a woman under investigation. That meant she had already decided which pieces she was willing to lose. "Minger," she said, "you bring guests without ceremony." Zhao Ming bowed, "Imperial Mother." And Zhu bowed lower, as courtesy required. Shen Yu bowed like a man who had misplaced respect and was too polite to mention it. The Empress's gaze passed over him last. Lord Shen, still playing with fans. "Only when knives are discouraged, Your Majesty." A lesser woman would have reacted. Empress Wei smiled. "Charming." Zhao Ming lifted the torn yellow silk. The smile faded by one thread. "Not enough for court. Enough for Zhu." "Do you recognize this?" Zhao Ming asked. Empress Wei looked at it as one might look at a dead leaf. "Should I?" "It bears Princess Lion's name." "There is no Princess Lion." Zhao Ming's hand tightened. And Zhu watched his face carefully. This was the moment. Not whether the Empress confessed. Whether Zhao Ming chose truth after denial failed. "There was," he said, "Princess Zhao Ning's daughter." Empress Wei set down her cup. The sound was gentle. "Your aunt was frail. Fever confused her household. Old servants invent stories when neglected. You are Crown Prince. You must not let bitter women and useless sons lead you into insulting the imperial record." Shen Yu's fan stopped. And Zhu stepped in before grief could answer for him. "Imperial records can be corrected." Empress Wei looked at her. The temperature of the room seemed to drop. "Lady An has grown bold." "No, Your Majesty, only literate." Zhao Ming almost looked at her. He did not. "Good." Focus was a discipline. "Mother," he said, "did you alter the witness record for my investiture?" Empress Wei's eyes returned to him. For the first time, something like irritation cracked the porcelain. "I secured your future." "There." "Not confession. Possession." Zhao Ming went pale. "At what cost?" "Do not ask questions like a child who believes crowns arrive clean." Her voice softened, which made it worse. "Everything I did so you would not kneel before those who would tear you apart." And Zhu thought of Zhao Ming kneeling before their gate. Truth had already made the Empress's labor fail. Zhao Ming lifted his head. "Then hear this as Crown Prince, not as your child. If evidence proves Phoenix Hall ordered murder, forged records, or witness tampering, I will submit it to Imperial Father." Silence. The lamps hissed. Empress Wei stared at her son, as if seeing a stranger wearing his face. You would destroy your mother for that girl. Zhao Ming's gaze flickered once toward Enzu. Only once. No, he said. That is what I would have done before, chosen a woman and called it righteousness. Enzu's chest tightened unexpectedly. Zhao Ming looked back at the Empress. I will do it because the Empire cannot survive records that change whenever you are afraid. Empress Wei smiled slowly. It was the smile that had crowned queens and buried children. Then choose your side carefully, Minger. The Northern Army is not as still as Ladium believes. Enzu heard the threat. So did Shen Yu. So did Zhao Ming. The border signal had begun. The Crown Prince had chosen a side. Now the Empress would make that choice expensive. Chapter 5, Rulan's Last Letter. And Rulan wrote beautifully when she wanted something. Enzu recognized the hand before Chunyi finished announcing the messenger. Each stroke soft, each curve modest. Every character arranged to look as if it had lowered its eyes before entering the room. In her first life, Enzu had mistaken that handwriting for gentleness. Now she saw the labor behind it. Rulan had spent years making hunger look harmless. The letter came from ministry custody, folded in plain paper and sealed with no fragrance. That alone made it different. Rulan liked scented paper. She liked the world to remember she was delicate before it remembered she was cruel. Enzu opened it. Cousin, if I disappear before the trial, ask why Phoenix Hall sent sour plum wine after promising me exile. Ask why Lady Kyan's steward came to the prison gate. Ask why the Empress wants me married before I can testify. I know you hate me. Good. Hate is safer than pity. Enzu read the letter twice. Then she handed it to Madame Liang. Her mother's face changed at Lady Kyan's name. Kyan again, Enzu said. Madame Liang folded the letter carefully. When Rulan was 13, her aunt tried to marry her into that house. You stopped it. I delayed it. Your father made enough noise that the arrangement became inconvenient. Duke N, standing by the window, looked over. Was that the one with the horsewhip? Madame Liang's eyes sharpened. You remember. I remember wanting to break his arm. You wanted to break many arms. That does not make this one less memorable. Enzu looked at the letter again. Rulan had betrayed them, lied, poisoned, forged, wept over every wound she inflicted. And still, the Empress now meant to erase her through marriage. There was no contradiction. Power used every woman the same way once she stopped being useful. We need Rulan alive, Shen Yu said from the doorway. Chunyi jumped. Do you ever knock? Increasingly. That was not an answer. Shen Yu stepped inside, fan tucked into his belt. The prison transfer register shows a request from the Kyan household to take custody of Rulan under family discipline. Dukin swore. Madame Liang's face became very still. Family discipline, she repeated. Everyone in the room understood what that could mean. No trial, no public testimony, no imperial execution that required records. Only a woman removed into a household where doors closed and bruises could be called obedience. Enzu stood. We stop the transfer. Shen Yu nodded. Zhao Ming is already at the ministry. The Crown Prince. He received a copy of the letter. Enzu looked down at the paper. Rulan had sent 2 copies. Practical. Afraid. Still manipulative. Still useful. The ministry prison was chaos by the time Enzu arrived. Zhao Ming stood in the outer hall with an order in one hand and anger controlled so tightly it seemed to have frozen. 2 Kyan household stewards knelt nearby. One had a split lip. Shen Yu looked at Chunyi before she could ask. Not me. Chunyi looked disappointed. Zhao Ming turned to Enzu. The transfer was approved by an inner court seal. Phoenix Hall. No. He handed her the order. Enzu saw the seal and understood why his face looked like that. The Emperor's private mark. Duke N had not come. Madame Liang had. She took the paper, examined it, and said, "This is not His Majesty's pressure pattern." Zhao Ming stared at her. Pressure pattern. A seal held by an old man with a cough lands unevenly on the lower right. Madame Liang pointed. "This is too strong." Shen Yu smiled faintly. "Madame Liang, you terrify me in new ways daily." "Good." And Zhu looked toward the inner cells. "Where is Rulan?" The answer came from behind them. "Still here." Rulan stood between two guards, hair pinned badly, face pale without powder. She looked smaller outside her pretty cell. Less like a villain. More like a girl who had run toward power and found a wall. And Zhu did not let pity soften her. "You sent the letter." Rulan looked at Zhao Ming, then Shen Yu, then Madame Liang, and finally Zhu. "I sent 3. Of course she had. "Who received the 3rd? Shen Yu asked. Rulan's mouth curved. There she was again. "Second Prince Zhao." Zhao Ming's expression darkened. And Zhu almost laughed. Not from humor. From the sheer exhaustion of princes. Rulan hugged herself. "If you want my testimony, I want the exile promise written before I speak." "You are in no position to bargain," Zhao Ming said. Rulan looked at him. "Your Highness, I am always in a position to bargain. It is my one talent." And Zhu stepped closer. "Your testimony buys consideration, not innocence." "I know." "Do you?" For once, Rulan did not answer quickly. Her gaze moved to Madame Liang. Something old and bitter passed between them. "I know what I did," Rulan said at last. "I also know what will happen to me if the Empress wins." "Then choose. Between you and her. Between truth and being used until nothing remains." Rulan's eyes filled. No tears fell. "You make survival sound noble." "No, I make it sound possible." The prison hall quieted. Outside, hooves thundered past the ministry gate. A soldier's voice shouted for the Crown Prince. Zhao Ming turned sharply. The messenger stumbled inside, mud to his knees. "Your Highness, urgent border report. A signal banner was raised from the northern relay." And Zhu's blood chilled. The Empress had moved faster than expected. The final war had begun, not with swords, but with a signal meant to make loyal soldiers look rebellious. Rulan's last letter had saved her life. It had not saved their family yet. Chapter 6: The Border Signal. The northern relay signal was impossible. That was why it was dangerous. Dukan spread the map across the ministry table with one hand and held the muddy report with the other. He had arrived within a quarter hour of the messenger, armored over his court robe, because no one had been foolish enough to stand between him and a border alarm. "My northern relay would never raise this banner without my command," he said. Zhao Ming stood opposite him. "The report says they did." "Then the report lies." The room waited for anger. Dukan gave them something worse. "Certainty." And Zhu looked at the signal description. Black crane over red field. In military code, it meant an emergency troop movement toward the capital. Not attack. Not yet. But close enough for frightened officials to whisper rebellion before anyone checked the road. In her first life, Zhu had heard of a similar signal only after it was too late. By then, Dukan's loyalty had already been stained. The capital had called though an army restless, then ambitious, then treasonous. This time, she saw the ink while it was still wet. "Who saw the banner?" she asked. The messenger bowed. "A southern courier detachment, my lady. They reported it to the Ministry of War." Shen Yu opened his fan. "Southern couriers at a northern relay. Fortunate." "Too fortunate," Zhu said. Zhao Ming turned to the messenger. "Which relay?" "Willow Pass." Dukan struck the map with 2 fingers. "Impossible twice. Willow Pass has been closed for repairs since autumn." The messenger went pale. The seal on the report was valid. "Seals are portable," Madame Liang said from the doorway. Everyone turned. She entered with Chun-Yi and a servant carrying a narrow box. Dukan stared. "Why are you here?" Madame Liang looked at the map. Because you forgot you're thinking tea. This is a military matter. Then it needs improvement. Zhao Ming coughed into his fist. And Zhu did not smile, but only because the hour was too dangerous. Madame Liang opened the box. Inside lay 3 old military tags, each tied with faded cord. When the Northern Army sends emergency signals, she said, does it not attach relay tags to the banner report? Duken's face changed. Yes. And Zhu looked at the muddy paper. There is no tag. Because the person who forged this knows court seals, Madame Liang said, not army habits. The false signal began to unravel. Not enough. Never enough at first. But enough to slow the blade. Zhao Ming issued 3 orders immediately. 1 to delay any memorial accusing the Northern Army. 1 to dispatch his own rider to Willow Pass. 1 to seal the Ministry of War Report archive. The 3rd order returned unanswered. That was the next warning. By sunset, Wei Guang's replacement at the censorate submitted a memorial asking whether Duken had lost control of his troops. By dusk, 3 officials requested emergency restriction of the Northern Army. By night, Empress Wei visited the emperor with medicine. And Zhu received that news in the resident study. She closed her eyes briefly. In her first life, imperial illness had always been useful to the Empress. The emperor's cough worsened whenever decisions needed a smaller room. Orders passed through Phoenix Hall. People called it filial care. And Zhu called it control. Shen Yu stood by the window. The border signal is bait. For my father, and Zhu said. For Zhao Ming too. She looked at him. If the crown prince defends your father, he appears controlled by the Yuan family, Shen Yu said. If he condemns him, he proves himself his mother's son. Either way, the Empress decides the story. And Zhu touched the map. Willow Pass. A closed relay. A false banner. No army tag. Then we need the actual banner, she said. Shen Yu's eyes warmed with approval. That would be difficult. You enjoy difficult. Only when you say it like that. The words slipped between them before either could hide them. And Zhu looked down first. Shen Yu did not press. That was why the moment lingered. A servant entered with another message. Not from Zhao Ming. From second Prince Zhao Heng. And Zhu unfolded it. Willow Pass is closed, but Willow Shrine is not. There is a second road. Bring someone who can lie to soldiers. Chunyi leaned over. Who can lie to soldiers? Shen Yu smiled. Commander N. From the corridor came Duken's voice. I heard that. Madame Liang answered, then prepare a horse. By midnight, and Zhu understood the Empress's move. A false signal had been raised not to move the Northern Army, but to make everyone look at the wrong road. Somewhere near Willow Shrine, the true evidence was being carried away. And if Zhu did not reach it first, the capital would wake to rebellion. Chapter 7, Second Prince Zhao Heng Smiles. Second Prince Zhao Heng waited at Willow Shrine with 2 horses, 3 guards, and the expression of a man who had not come to help for free. And Zhu disliked that. She also respected it. Dawn had not yet broken. The shrine stood on a low ridge above the old relay road, its stone lions half buried in weeds. Mist moved through the trees. Somewhere below, a closed pass pretended to be the center of the empire's concern. Zhao Heng bowed to Zhu first. Not to Duken. Not to Zhao Ming, who had arrived in plain armor with reins still on his cloak. To Zhu. That told her exactly whom he believed was running the case. Lady N, he said, you came quickly. You wrote urgently. Urgency is useful when true. Duken looked him over. Your Highness brought few men. Too many men become a banner. Banners are the problem today. Shen Yu opened his fan. I find myself unwillingly charmed. Zhao Heng smiled. How unfortunate for you. Zhao Ming did not smile. The brothers stood near each other without warmth. In another life, perhaps they might have been allies. In this one, every prince was a possible future, and every future carried knives. And Zhu looked at Zhao Heng. What do you know? He gestured toward the lower road. The false report claims the signal was raised from Willow Pass, but the pass is closed, as Commanderin said. Last night, a small party crossed near Willow Shrine carrying a sealed banner chest. Who? Men wearing northern courier cloaks. Dukan growled, not mine. No, Zhao Heng said. Their boots were palace issue. Zhao Ming's face hardened. Phoenix Hall. Likely. Why tell us? Zhao Ming asked. Zhao Heng turned to his brother. Because if our mother's faction successfully frames the Northern Army, you become either her obedient son or the heir who lost control of the capital. Neither outcome suits me. And what outcome does? One where the empire survives long enough for better men to compete honestly. Dukan snorted. Princes speaking of honesty before breakfast, dangerous omen. Zhao Heng's smile deepened. And Zhu stepped between the royal tension before it could become masculine noise. Where is the chest now? At a hunter's lodge beyond the shrine road. Guarded. Badly enough to be suspicious. Shen Yu's fan stilled. A trap. Yes, Zhao Heng said, but possibly one with evidence inside. And Zhu looked at the road. In her first life, she had been moved like a covered box from one room to another. Engagement hall, Eastern Palace, Cold Palace, every door chosen by someone else. Now she chose roads. We take the trap apart, she said. Zhao Ming looked at her. Lady N, if I go, it becomes a royal confrontation. Then you do not go in front. And if danger comes. She met his eyes. Then you may be useful from behind. Zhao Heng laughed once. Zhao Ming did not. That too was progress. They approached the hunter's lodge through wet pine. Shen Yu led the quiet route. Duke and identified false military knots tied by men who had seen army rope but never trusted it with their lives. Zhao Heng's guards circled wide. Zhao Ming stayed back as ordered, which seemed to pain him more than danger. Inside the lodge, they found the banner chest. Empty. Of course. Chun-Yi, who had insisted on coming because someone must carry common sense, discovered the hidden compartment. It held not the signal banner, but a black crane stencil, red dye, and 3 palace boot tags. Enough to prove forgery. Too neatly arranged. And Zhu's skin prickled. This is bait for us, she said. Shen Yu nodded. If we present it, they say we planted it. Dukan swore softly. Zhao Heng picked up one boot tag with a cloth. Still useful. How? Because palace issue tags are recorded by batch. Zhao Ming entered, then despite orders, followed by one of his guards. And I can access the batch records. And Zhu looked at him. You were told to stay behind. I did, until behind became inside. That is not how instructions work. Zhao Heng looked delighted. Shen Yu looked as if he were storing the exchange for later. Before Zhu could answer, a whistle cut through the trees. Not a bird. A signal. Dukan moved first, shoving Zhu behind a support beam as arrows struck the lodge wall. Zhao Ming drew his sword. Zhao Heng's guards shouted outside. Shen Yu pulled Zhu toward the back door. Trap confirmed, he said. Your analytical gifts remain unmatched. I try. They burst into the mist as another volley hit the lodge. Through the trees, Zhu saw men in palace boots and northern cloaks. The Empress had dressed her assassins as her father's soldiers. Then she had sent witnesses enough to see them die as traitors. Second Prince Zhao Heng smiled no longer. For the first time since Zhu had met him, he looked truly angry. Mother is becoming careless, he said. Zhao Ming's sword flashed beside him. No, Zhu said, clutching the boot tag evidence in her sleeve. She is becoming desperate. And desperate enemies could finally be made to bleed truth. Chapter 8, The Cold Palace Archive. The Cold Palace smelled the same. And Zhu had not known fear could have a scent until she stood before its gate in her second life. Dust, snowmelt, dead ashes, old medicine trapped in wood. Her hands remained still inside her sleeves. That was victory enough for the first breath. Shen Yu stood beside her, saying nothing. Zhao Ming had offered to come. And Zhu had refused. Some doors did not need the man who once locked them, even if he had not yet done it in this life. Madame Liang had understood without asking. Dukan had not. He had demanded why his daughter needed to enter a ruined palace alone with that fanboy. Madame Liang had told him that some battles could not be won by fathers standing too close. Dukan had gone silent after that, which meant he loved her enough to be educated. Now Zhu faced the gate. "You do not have to enter," Shen Yu said. She looked at him. "I know." He inclined his head. No persuasion. No insistence. No claim that courage required performance. That made entering easier. The cold palace in this life was unused. Its windows were cracked but not familiar. Its curtains were gray, not the torn red bridal cloth of her first death. The brazier in the main room was empty. No bowl waited on the table. Still, Zhu saw it. Snow on her sleeves. Rulan's voice. Zhao Ming's absence. The last breath leaving her body, while the palace continued living around her. She stopped. Shen Yu stopped with her. "Lady N. I am here." "Yes. I mean all of me." His gaze softened. "I know." The archive door lay behind a screen of broken bamboo. Shen Jun had hidden a clue here because no one entered abandoned women's places unless they wanted something shameful or dead. Shen Yu found the first mark carved beneath the door lintel. 3 strokes. His brother's private chess notation. "He was here," Shen Yu whispered. Inside, the archive was smaller than Zhu expected. Shelves lined 2 walls. Most were empty. Some held old household punishments, discarded servant lists, physician scraps, and records of women whose names had been reduced to rooms. Zhu moved toward the medicine shelf before she knew why. Her body remembered what her mind had not yet found. There, behind a cracked jar labeled winter tonic, was a bundle wrapped in oil paper. Shen Yu came to her side. She opened it. 3 things lay inside. A torn nursery, record bearing Princess Lion's full name. A physician's note describing symptoms of slow heart poison. And a servant confession copied in 2 hands. Zhu stared at the confession. One hand wrote the accusation. The other had changed the name of the victim. Not Princess Zhao Ning. Not Princess Lion. Zhu. Her own name appeared in faded ink at the bottom of the page. Not from this life. Impossible. Shen Yu saw her face. What is it? The room tilted. Zhu gripped the shelf. In her first life, after she died, someone must have prepared a confession explaining her illness. A servant blamed, a medicine justified, a death made clean. But this copy was here now, 3 years before her death. Prepared in advance. Her death had not been an accident of later politics. It had been planned before the engagement ever began. "They already had my death written," she said. Shen Yu's expression changed in a way she had never seen. The fan vanished. The mask vanished with it. "Who?" Zhu touched the altered name. "Phoenix Hall." For the first time, Shen Yu looked as if he might kill someone without cleverness. Zhu's voice remained calm because if it broke, she might never stop shaking. "In my first life, I died here." Silence. Not disbelief. Not quite understanding. But a stillness deep enough to hold truth without demanding it explain itself immediately. Shen Yu said, "Tell me only what you choose." There it was again. The door. Not a cage. Zhu looked at the cold palace room and finally allowed herself to speak. "Zhao Ming became emperor. Rulan became empress. My father was accused. My family fell. I was locked here in winter and given medicine until I stopped waking. On the last night, Rulan told me the betrayal had been planned from the beginning." Shen Yu's hand closed slowly over the shelf edge. "And then I woke 3 years earlier." The old palace held its breath. Shen Yu did not ask if she was mad. He did not ask whether she had proof of the impossible. He looked at the confession bearing her name before her death, and understood that the world had already become impossible without his permission. Then your first death and my brother's murder were part of the same preparation, he said. And Zhu nodded. The Empress did not improvise you. No. She selected you. That was worse. And Zhu had thought she had been used because she loved Zhao Ming. Now she understood she had been chosen before love, trained through affection, arranged into position, and destroyed when no longer needed. The cold palace archive had not given her a weapon. It had given her the shape of the entire machine. Shen Yu wrapped the documents carefully. Then he did what no one else had done in either life. He knelt. Not like Zhao Ming before her gate, not publicly, not dramatically. Only one knee on the cold floor, head bowed, documents in his hands. Lady N, he said, voice rough, I swear by my brother's name that I will help you make every person who prepared your death answer for it. And Zhu looked down at him. Her heart hurt. Not from fear. From being believed without being claimed. Stand up, Shen Yu. He looked at her. We have work to do. He stood. Together, they left the cold palace, carrying the archive of women the palace thought no one would mourn. This time, every name would speak. Chapter 9, The Doctor Who Remembered Her Death. The doctor had changed his name twice. That was not enough. Madame Liang found him through medicine purchases, temple donations, and a widow who remembered that a man with trembling hands had once paid too much silver for silence after treating a palace patient. His current name was Dr. Sun. In the old record, he had been Physician Liu. In Zhu's first life, he had been the man who examined her pulse through a curtain and said grief had weakened her heart. And Zhu remembered his voice. Soft. Bored. Careful not to sound guilty. They found him in a southern apothecary near the river, grinding herbs as if mortar and pestle could erase memory. When he saw Zhu, the bowl slipped from his hand. That reaction told her everything. Shen Yu closed the shop door behind them. Chunyi turned the sign to closed with visible satisfaction. Dr. Sun backed into the counter. My lady, I do not know you. And Zhu removed the physician's note from the cold palace archive and placed it on the table. You know this hand. His eyes flicked down. Then away. Many physicians write similarly. Shen Yu smiled, and many liars sweat similarly. We work with patterns. The doctor's face shone with fear. And Zhu studied him. In her first life, she had hated him without knowing his name. He had been one more servant of her death, a man paid to call poison illness. Now he looked smaller. Not innocent. Never that. Only smaller than the harm he had helped create. Princess Zhao Ning, and Zhu said. The doctor flinched. Princess Lion. He gripped the counter. Shen Jun. His knees gave way. Chunyi looked pleased. Shen Yu did not. His face had gone very still again. And Zhu placed the prepared servant confession beside the physician note. This confession names my death before it happens. Dr. Sun stared at it. Impossible, he whispered. You wrote the symptoms. I was ordered. By whom? He shook his head. Shen Yu's voice cut softly. The wrong answer dishonors the dead. Choose carefully. The doctor looked at him and recognized something. Not the useless scholar, not a harmless second son. A brother. Phoenix Hall, he whispered. And Zhu felt no surprise. Only the tired confirmation of a nightmare, finally admitting its name. Who gave the order? She asked. Auntie Fu, Her Majesty's old nurse. Shen Yu closed his eyes briefly. And Zhu knew the name. Auntie Fu had served Empress Wei since before Zhao Ming's birth. In her first life, the old woman had visited the cold palace once, bringing a cloak and advice to be obedient if Zhu wanted warmth. And Zhu had thanked her. The memory burned. What poison? She asked. Dr. Sun looked at her with genuine confusion. For which death? Chunyi made a small horrified sound. Shen Yu stepped forward. And Zhu lifted one hand to stop him. All of them. The doctor covered his face. Princess Zhao Ming received snow heart powder in winter tonic. It mimics fever, weakens the lungs, and leaves little trace after burial. The child, he swallowed. The child received less, enough to make illness plausible. Shen Yu died from smoke because he was trapped. I did not prepare that. I only signed the body note. Shen Yu's fan snapped in his hand. The crack was loud as a slap. Dr. Sun began sobbing. And me? And Zhu asked. He looked up. Fear gave way to something worse. Recognition. I was told a noble daughter would one day need to be managed if she became inconvenient after marriage. The symptoms were prepared, not the date. Managed. Not killed. Managed. And Zhu felt the cold palace medicine slide down her throat again. She had been a problem to be managed before she even became a wife. Shen Yu's voice was low. Write it. Dr. Sun shook his head violently. She will kill me. She may, and Zhu said. He stared at her. We are not offering comfort, she continued. We are offering use. Write the truth, and your confession enters court before your body can disappear. Stay silent, and Phoenix Hall will erase you the moment she knows we found you. Dr. Sun looked at the door. Chunyi stood in front of it like a tiny judgment. He looked at Shen Yu. No mercy there. Then he looked at Zhu. Perhaps he saw the death he had prepared reflected in the living woman before him. Perhaps fear finally learned arithmetic. He wrote 3 pages. Princess Zhao Ming. Princess Lion. Shen Yu. Lady Zhu prepared. When he finished, his hand shook so badly the final characters blurred. Shen Yu sanded the ink and sealed the confession with the ministry mark he had brought for that purpose. And Zhu looked at the document. It was not justice. Not yet. But it was the first time her first death had been named by someone who helped build it. Outside the apothecary, river fog drifted through the street. Dr. Sun whispered, "What will happen to me?" And Zhu turned at the door. "You will live long enough to testify." And after? She looked at him for a moment. After is a mercy you did not give your patients. Then she left him with guards, ink-stained hands, and the sound of his own confession drying behind him. Chapter 10, Shen Yu stops pretending. Shen Yu buried his broken fan in the courtyard. And Zhu found him beneath the old plum tree behind the Ministry of Justice, crouched beside a shallow patch of turned earth. The fan had been painted with cranes. It had hidden his mouth through banquets, investigations, insults, and grief. Now its snapped ribs lay under soil like bones too tired to perform. "A funeral?" she asked. He looked up. "A retirement. For the fan. For the man who needed it." And Zhu stood beside him, while the afternoon wind moved through bare branches. Dr. Sun's confession had been copied 3 times and sealed under 3 different authorities. 1 copy with the Ministry of Justice, 1 with Crown Prince Zhao Ming, 1 with Madame Liang, which was arguably the safest archive in the capital. Evidence was gathering. So was danger. Empress Wei would know soon that the old doctor had been found. People became most violent when history stopped obeying them. Shen Yu brushed soil from his fingers. My brother used to say I hid laziness behind cleverness. Was he right? Often. That must have been irritating. Deeply, especially because he was usually right while being sanctimonious. Zhu smiled. The smile came easily. That startled her more than sorrow had. Shen Yu noticed, he always did, but he did not seize the moment. He only stood and faced the tree. After he died, I thought if I became useless enough, the people who killed him would forget I existed. Then I could listen, collect, wait. It worked. Yes. And it cost you. His gaze moved to her. There was no fan now. No painted cranes. No convenient shadow. Yes, he said. The honesty settled between them. And Zhu thought of the mask she wore. Dutiful daughter, dangerous lady, calm strategist. reborn woman who did not shake when walking into the cold palace. Some masks saved lives. Some became rooms. What will you be now? She asked. Shen Yu looked toward the ministry building, then beyond it to the palace roofs. A son who submits evidence, a brother who finishes the case, a man who stops pretending he has no ambition. Ambition for what? The question was dangerous. He knew it. So did she. Shen Yu answered carefully, but not evasively. For a court where records cannot be rewritten by whoever controls the inner palace, for a ministry that protects witnesses before they become ghosts, for a life in which I do not have to make myself small to survive. And Zhu's chest tightened. And personally. He looked at her then. Fully. Personally, I want to stand beside you when this ends and ask whether you would like me there tomorrow. No promise demanded. No future assumed. Only tomorrow, offered as a door. And Zhu looked away because the softness in her own face felt more dangerous than any confession. That is a bold ambition. I have stopped pretending. So I see. Footsteps interrupted before the silence could become too honest. Zhao Ming entered the courtyard carrying a sealed military batch record. He stopped when he saw them standing near the buried fan. His eyes moved from Shen Yu's unguarded face to Zhu's expression. Pain crossed him. He mastered it. Not perfectly, but enough. The boot tags from Willow Shrine came from Phoenix Hall's Westguard batch, he said. Shen Yu turned back into the case with visible effort, directly assigned to Auntie Fu's household escort. And Zhu's fingers chilled. Auntie Fu. The old nurse, the doctor's handler, the woman who had brought a cloak to the cold palace in her first life. Can you arrest her? Zhu asked. Zhao Ming's mouth tightened, not without alerting my mother. She is already alerted. Then, not without forcing her to move before we secure the emperor. That was the core of it. The emperor's illness had become the empress's wall. As long as she controlled his medicine, access, and seals, every accusation could be delayed, softened, or turned into filial rebellion. Shen Yu looked at the palace roofs. We need the emperor outside Phoenix Hall's care. Zhao Ming gave a humorless laugh. An easy request. Shall I also move the moon? And Zhu considered the problem. Then she thought of Madame Liang. No, she said, we move the women. Both men looked at her. The Empress controls officials through court procedure, Zhu said. She controls the emperor through attendance, but noblewomen still enter the inner palace for illness visits, prayer rites, and household offerings. Shen Yu's eyes brightened. Witness chain. Mother already built one. Zhao Ming understood a breath later. If enough noblewomen enter with Madame Liang, my mother cannot isolate every room without looking afraid. And if the emperor sees people beyond Phoenix Hall, his private seal becomes harder to forge. Zhao Ming looked at Zhu as if she had opened a window in a burning room. Once, that look would have warmed her. Now it only confirmed the root. I will speak to my mother, Zhu said. Shen Yu blinked. Madame Liang. Yes. Good, for a moment, I thought you meant the Empress. I am bold, not foolish. Zhao Ming almost smiled. Then a palace bell rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound rolled over the capital like a warning. Zhao Ming went pale. Imperial illness summons, he said, all princes to the palace. Shen Yu looked at Zhu. The Empress was moving. So would they. Beneath the plum tree, the broken fan lay buried. The useless scholar did not leave the courtyard. A dangerous man did. Chapter 11. The Empress moves the Northern Army. The imperial summons arrived at an residence before dawn. It did not come with drums. It did not come with royal guards. It came with a single eunuch in gray, his face pale beneath the lantern light, his hands trembling around a sealed scroll. His Majesty's condition has worsened, he said. All senior ministers and titled families are ordered to remain within reach of the palace. No private troops may move without imperial command. Dukin took the scroll. He read it once. Then his eyes turned cold. The order was written in the emperor's hand. Or something close enough to it that most men would have bowed without breathing. And Zhu stood beside the doorway in a plain white cloak, her hair pinned without ornament. In the faint morning light, her face looked gentle enough to fool servants, ministers, and enemies who had not yet learned better. "Father," she said softly, "may I see the seal?" Duke handed her the scroll. The vermilion seal at the bottom was the imperial seal. But the pressure was wrong. In her first life, Zhu had spent years in the cold palace reading imperial decrees that decided who would eat, who would freeze, and who would disappear before spring. She had learned the cruel intimacy of official paper. Real imperial commands were heavy in places for a reason. This seal had been pressed by someone who feared delay. Too hard on the lift. Too light on the dragon's claw. And Zhu's finger stopped there. "This was stamped in haste," she said. Duke looked at her. "The emperor may be dying," one of the family stewards whispered. "If the court collapses, every faction will move." "That is what she wants us to believe," Zhu said. No one asked which woman she meant. By noon, the capital had become a city of closed doors. Merchants pulled their shutters down. Carriages vanished from the main streets. Old officials sent their sons to visit temples with too many guards and too few prayer beads. At the western gate, messengers rode in with dust on their sleeves and fear in their mouths. The northern army had received an emergency signal. Willow Pass was under threat. The second relay reported bandits with military banners. The third relay said the Duke of Anne's old border men were gathering without permission. The fourth relay claimed the Crown Prince had ordered capital troops to prepare for internal suppression. Every report contradicted the one before it. And together, they formed a perfect shape. Chaos. If Duke moved to protect himself, he would be called a rebel. If Zhao Ming moved to protect the throne, he would be called a usurper. If Shen Yu moved from the Ministry of Revenue, he would expose that he had been investigating military grain under a false identity for months. If Zhu stayed still, Phoenix Hall would bury the witnesses before sunset. Empress Wei had not drawn a sword. She had drawn 4 roads and made each one look like treason. At the inn residence, old General slammed his hand on the table. "Let me send riders to our men. I need only 1 hour." "No," Duke said. "If the Northern Army believes the relay, they may march toward the capital. Then they must see we do not move first." "Brother." Duke did not raise his voice. "If the Wen family moves even 1 private soldier before the forgery is exposed, the Empress wins." The room fell silent. Zhu looked at the map spread across the table. Willow Pass. Willow Shrine. The old relay road. The border grain route Shen Yu had marked before he died. And 1 small courier station between the capital and the northern road. Her eyes stopped there. "This station," she said, "who controls it?" The steward leaned forward. "It belongs to the Ministry of War." "On paper." "In practice," he hesitated. "The station master is married to a niece of Auntie Fu's younger brother." Duke's gaze sharpened. Zhu said, "The order did not begin at Willow Pass. It passed through that station. If we find the first false tag, we can prove the signal was forged inside the capital." Old General embarked a laugh without humor. "The station will be guarded." "Yes," Zhu said. "By whose men?" "The men who think women do not read boot leather." No one smiled. But Shen Yu did when he arrived an hour later. He came through the side gate without his painted fan, without the lazy tilt of his mouth, without the harmless scholar mask that had once made half the capital underestimate him. He wore dark blue riding clothes and a sword at his waist. For one breath, Zhu remembered the man in the cold alley who had stood beside her when the world had already decided she was expendable. The station master burned his night ledger, Shen Yu said before anyone could ask. Duke's face hardened. "Already." "Not well." Shen Yu placed a folded cloth on the table. Inside lay 3 brass relay tags, blackened at the edges. Each was stamped with the emergency mark used for border invasion. Each bore the same cut near the corner. And Zhu picked one up. Her pulse slowed. "This cut," she said, "I saw it on Auntie Fu's palace pass." Shen Yu nodded. "Her household men mark their keys this way so they can exchange them in the dark." Then Phoenix Hall sent the false military signal. Not only sent it, Shen Yu pointed to the tag, they used retired relay tags from 6 years ago. 6 years. The year of Princess Lion's disappearance. The year Shen Jun died. The year the Empress learned that a burned road could hide more than ash. Dukan exhaled slowly. "Can this prove enough?" "Enough to stop honest generals from marching," Shen Yu said. "Not enough to convict an empress." And Zhu closed her hand around the brass tag. "Then we stop the army first." Old General and leaned over the map. "How?" "With someone they cannot accuse of rebellion." Every eye turned toward her. And Zhu said, "The Crown Prince." For a moment, no one spoke. Then a guard hurried in from the courtyard and dropped to one knee. "My lord, His Highness Zhao Ming requests entry." The room changed. Dukan looked at Zhu. And Zhu looked at Shen Yu. Shen Yu did not speak. His hand rested near the sword at his waist, not because Zhao Ming was an enemy, but because every man in the capital had become a blade waiting to be named. Zhao Ming entered alone. He wore no crown, no ceremonial robe, only a white mourning sash tied over dark court clothes, though the emperor was not dead. His face looked as if he had not slept since the palace fire confessed itself on silk. "Duke An," he said, "I need your men to remain still." Old General An's temper flashed. "And if your mother's forged signal brings the northern army to our gates?" Zhao Ming accepted the blow without flinching. "Then I will ride to the northern road and order them back myself." The steward gasped. Duke An's eyes narrowed. "If the Empress claims you moved without imperial permission, you lose more than position." "I know. If the army obeys Phoenix Hall instead of you, you may die." "I know." And Zhu watched him. There had been a time when Zhao Ming's certainty had filled rooms like sunlight through carved screens. He had believed duty and desire could be made to kneel in the same direction if only he was honorable enough. Now he looked like a man, finally learning that honor did not spare him from choosing. He turned to her. "I will not ask you to trust me," he said. "I am asking for the relay tags." Shen Yu's expression did not change. But the air between the two men tightened. And Zhu held out the blackened brass. Zhao Ming took it with both hands. "There is one more thing," she said. "Name it. Do not say then family gave these to you." His eyes flickered. She continued, "Say you found them through your own investigation. Say you doubted Phoenix Hall before anyone forced you to doubt it." "That is not true. It needs to become true by sunset." Zhao Ming understood. If the court believed he was merely repeating and family evidence, his mother could call him bewitched, cornered, manipulated by a woman who had refused him. But if the Crown Prince publicly claimed suspicion of Phoenix Hall first, then every official who feared Empress Wei could step behind him. He looked at Zhu for a long time. "You are giving me a road back." "No," she said, "I am giving the court a road forward." Pain moved through his face, brief and clean. Then he bowed. "Not to Dukan. Not to Shen Yu. To Zhu. Then I will not waste it." By dusk, Zhao Ming rode north with only 12 imperial guards and 1 minister from the censorate as witness. At the second relay bridge, the Northern Army vanguard had already begun to gather. Their banners stood like black teeth against the winter sky. The commander, General Pei, looked at the Crown Prince and did not kneel. "Your Highness," he said, hand on sword, "we received emergency order to secure the capital road." Zhao Ming dismounted. He walked forward alone. "From whom?" "The Imperial Relay." "From whom?" General Pei's jaw tightened. Zhao Ming lifted the blackened tags. "These are false. The emergency mark was taken from retired relay stock. The order was issued through a Phoenix Hall channel and disguised as border alarm. Murmurs passed through the soldiers. General Pei's eyes changed. That is a grave accusation. Yes. Against whom? Zhao Ming's hand closed around the brass. The wind pulled at his morning sash. Behind him, the censor unfolded his writing tablet with shaking fingers. Zhao Ming said, against the household of Her Majesty the Empress. The bridge went silent. In that silence, one road closed behind him forever. And for the first time, Zhao Ming did not look back. Chapter 12, Madame Liang calls the witnesses. Madame Liang did not arrive at the palace like a woman entering danger. She arrived like a woman arriving late to a gathering where everyone else had been rude enough to begin without her. Her carriage stopped before the Eastern Palace gate at mid-morning. Behind it came 6 more carriages, each marked with the crest of a different noble household. The guards stared. No one had ordered this. No one had dared to forbid it. Madame Liang stepped down in a dark green cloak embroidered with plain silver bamboo. Her hair was white at the temples, her back was straight, and her eyes held the mild contempt of a grandmother who had watched 3 emperors make the same mistakes with different seals. Her Majesty summoned the noblewomen to pray for His Majesty's recovery, she said. The gate captain hesitated. I received no such order. Then you received no order refusing us either. Madam, the palace is under restriction. So is my patience. The women behind her stepped down one by one. Madame Su, whose son served in the censorate. Lady Han, whose brother controlled the southern granaries. Old Marchioness Qi, who had once slapped a prince with a fan and lived long enough to tell the story whenever wine was poured. And behind them, veiled in pale gray, was Rulan. Not dressed as a favored concubine. Not painted like a woman waiting to be selected, exchanged, married off, or buried. She wore mourning white. The guards saw her and shifted uneasily. Everyone in the capital knew Rulan was supposed to have been sent south before dawn. Everyone in the capital knew that women sent south under Phoenix Hall orders rarely returned with their own names. Madame Liang glanced at the gate captain. You may keep us standing outside, she said. But if His Majesty dies while the noblewomen are barred from prayer, the people will ask why Phoenix Hall feared incense. That was enough. The gates opened. Inside the palace, the air smelled of medicine and wet stone. Rain had fallen in the night, thin and cold, leaving the red walls dark as old blood. The noblewomen moved through the corridors without speaking loudly. They did not need to. Every maid looked. Every eunuch listened. Every guard understood that one witness could vanish, but 7 carriages with 7 crests could not disappear quietly. And Zhu waited near the hall of quiet longevity. She wore blue today, not white. Not mourning. Not surrender. Madame Liang's eyes softened for half a breath when she saw her, then sharpened again. Child, she said, your father is behaving. With difficulty. Good, men who behave too easily are usually planning something foolish. Rulan stood behind Madame Liang, her veil lowered. And Zhu looked at her. The girl who had once trembled over coated wine cups now stood pale, but upright, her hands folded so tightly the knuckles showed white. You came, and Zhu said. Rulan's mouth moved. For a moment, no sound came. Then she whispered, if I leave before speaking, I will be leaving forever. And Zhu did not comfort her with lies. Yes. Rulan swallowed. Then I should speak while my throat still belongs to me. Madame Liang nodded once. We will make sure it does. The first witness was not Rulan. That was in Zhu's decision. If Rulan spoke first, Empress Wei would call her jealous, frightened, corrupted by Zhu, desperate for survival. So the first witness was an old palace seamstress named Aunt Rong, who had repaired Princess Lion's burned sleeve 6 years ago. She came bent nearly double, her hair wrapped in plain cloth, her left hand swollen from age. When she saw the noblewomen seated along the side hall, she almost backed away. Madame Liang tapped her cane once. "Speak to the table," she said. "Tables are less frightening than men." Aunt Rong stared at the polished wood. "The silk was not burned from the outside," she whispered. The clerk nearly dropped his brush. And Zhu watched from behind the screen. So did Shen Yu. So did Zhao Ming, standing in the shadow near the door, his face unreadable after his return from the northern road. Aunt Rong continued. The princess's sleeve had oil inside the lining, not cooking oil, lamp oil. It had been brushed there before the fire. Lady Hannon hailed sharply. "Who brought the garment to you?" Madame Liang asked. Aunt Rong closed her eyes. "Auntie Fu." The name moved through the room like a blade being drawn. The second witness was a retired relay clerk. He had once been dismissed for drunkenness, which made him useful to Phoenix Hall and useless to anyone who required a clean reputation. He entered shaking. When he saw Shen Yu, he began to cry. "I did not know young Master Shen would die," he said. Shen Yu did not move. The clerk knelt so hard his forehead struck the floor. "I changed the relay ledger, only one page. I thought it was grain accounts. I thought it was only numbers." Shen Yu's voice was quiet. "Whose numbers?" "Shen Jun's, your elder brother's." The room tightened. And Zhu looked at Shen Yu's profile. He had hidden grief behind silk sleeves, painted fans, and idle jokes for so long that even now his face did not break. But his hand curled once at his side. Just once. The clerk confessed that Shen Jun had traced missing military grain through the same relay road used in the false northern signal. He had marked 3 shipments that never reached Willow Pass. Those shipments had been diverted into private stores controlled by Phoenix Hall. When Shen Jun requested a sealed audit, he was accused of consorting with border smugglers. 2 days later, he was dead. Madame Liang listened without interrupting. Then she asked, "Who ordered you to change the ledger?" The clerk's mouth trembled. "A palace eunuch under Auntie Fu." The third witness was Dr. Sun. He looked smaller in daylight. Men who had done terrible things often did. At night, guilt made them large in memory. In morning, they were only men with shaking hands and cowardly eyes. He confessed to preparing calming powders for women in Phoenix Hall custody. He confessed that one powder, if given for 7 days, could weaken the heart. He confessed he had been ordered to prepare such a powder for Zhu in the first timeline of fate, though he did not know the words for rebirth and never would. In this life, he had prepared the same formula and left it unsigned in the cold palace archive before Zhu had been condemned. He also confessed that the same powder had been delivered to Princess Lion's maid 6 years ago. Zhao Ming closed his eyes. Rulan made a small sound behind her veil. And Zhu did not. She had already died once from other people's small, careful arrangements. Hearing the recipe aloud did not make the grave deeper. It only gave the grave a name. At last, Madame Liang turned to Rulan. "Now," she said. Rulan walked forward. Her steps were slow. No one hurried her. When she reached the table, she lifted her veil. She looked young. Too young for the kind of fear that had learned strategy. "My name is Rulan," she said. "I was placed near His Highness the Crown Prince by Phoenix Hall. I was told to repeat certain phrases. I was told to spill wine on command. I was told that if Lady An entered the inner palace again, I was to make her look jealous, unstable, and violent." The clerk wrote quickly. "Who gave the order?" Madame Liang asked. Rulan's throat moved. "Auntie Fu." "On whose behalf?" Rulan's eyes filled with tears. For a terrible breath, she looked toward Zhao Ming. Not asking him to save her. Not blaming him. Only measuring whether truth would cost him everything. Zhao Ming stepped out of the shadow. His voice was hoarse. "Answer." Rulan lowered her eyes. "On behalf of Her Majesty the Empress." Outside the hall, thunder rolled. Inside, no one moved. Then a maid screamed from the corridor. The doors burst open. Auntie Fu entered with 6 palace guards. Her face was white with fury. "This gathering is illegal," she said. "By order of Her Majesty, the witnesses are to be removed." The guards stepped forward. Madame Liang stood. The old Marchioness stood with her. Lady Han. Madame Su. Every noblewoman in the room rose as one. Madame Liang's cane struck the floor. "Touch one witness," she said, "and you will have to explain why 6 houses of the Empire watched Phoenix Hall silence testimony in the Emperor's sick room." Auntie Fu's eyes flicked to Zhao Ming. "Your Highness, Her Majesty commands." "Her Majesty will wait," Zhao Ming said. Auntie Fu froze. It was the first time anyone in that room had heard him speak of his mother, as if she were an official subject to delay. Zhao Ming walked to the table and placed the blackened relay tags beside the witness statements. "Seal every testimony," he ordered the clerk. 3 copies, 1 for the Emperor's bedside, 1 for the censorate, 1 for the ancestral temple. His gaze turned to Auntie Fu. "And detain her." Auntie Fu laughed once. "You would arrest me." Zhao Ming's face was pale. "No," he said, "I would begin." Chapter 13, The Memorial Trial. The ancestral hall had never been used as a courtroom. That was why Madame Liang chose it. Courts could be delayed. Courtrooms could be emptied. Palace chambers could be sealed under the excuse of illness, mourning, propriety, or danger. But no one in the empire could easily forbid ministers from kneeling before the tablets of dead emperors and asking whether the living throne had been poisoned from within. By sunrise, half the capital knew. By mid-morning, the other half pretended it did not. The emperor was brought in behind a gauze screen, too weak to sit upright without attendants. His face was gray, his breath uneven, but his eyes were open. That mattered. Empress Wei arrived last. She wore full phoenix robes. Gold wings rose from her hair. Pearls trembled beside her temples. Her face was perfectly composed, the way a frozen lake looked composed before a body was pulled from beneath it. When she saw the witnesses, her gaze did not change. When she saw Auntie Fu kneeling in chains, something small and bright moved behind her eyes. Anger. Not fear. Not yet. Zhao Ming stood to the left of the emperor's screen. Second Prince Zhao Heng stood to the right, smiling faintly as if history had invited him to dinner. And Zhu stood behind Duke and an old general N, her hands folded inside her sleeves. Shen Yu stood among the lower officials of the Ministry of Revenue. To anyone careless, he looked misplaced. To anyone who had watched the case unfold, he looked exactly where a blade should be before it struck. The chief censor stepped forward. His voice carried across the hall. By joint memorial of the censorate, the Ministry of Revenue, Duke Anne's household, and 6 titled madams of the inner court, testimony has been submitted alleging abuse of palace authority, falsification of military relay signals, suppression of imperial witnesses, theft of border grain, attempted framing of a noble daughter, and murder connected to Princess Lion and Shen Jun. A murmur rose. The word murder did not often survive long enough to echo near phoenix robes. Empress Wei looked at the emperor's screen. "Your Majesty," she said gently, "you are ill. Ambitious people have chosen this moment because they believe compassion will soften discipline." The emperor's eyes moved. He did not answer. The chief censor opened the first scroll. The relay tags were presented. Blackened brass. Retired emergency marks. The cut used by Auntie Fu's household guards. The station master's burned ledger, recovered in fragments by Shen Yu's men. The censorate minister, who had ridden with Zhao Ming, testified that the Northern Army had halted only after the Crown Prince exposed the false Phoenix Hall channel. General Pei's signed statement was read aloud. "The army moved under false alarm," the censor said. "Had the Duke of An responded with private troops, civil war could have begun before sunset." Empress Wei sighed. "A household servant's corruption is tragic," she said, "but to lay every servant's crime at my feet is convenient." Auntie Fu lifted her head. For the first time, the old servant looked frightened. Empress Wei did not look at her. That was how everyone in the hall understood Auntie Fu had already been abandoned. The chief censor opened the second scroll. Shen Jun's records were placed on the table. Old grain routes. Missing shipments. Relay numbers. A sealed audit request that had never reached the emperor. Shen Yu stepped forward. The hall quieted. He bowed to the emperor's screen. My elder brother Shen Jun died 6 years ago under accusation of smuggling with border bandits, he said. The accusation rested on a ledger altered by a relay clerk now present before this hall. The altered page hid 3 grain shipments diverted to private stores under Phoenix Hall protection. Empress Wei's eyes turned toward him. Young Master Shen, she said, grief can make a man see patterns where there are only shadows. Shen Yu looked up. Then your majesty will not object to light. He unfolded the last paper. It was not a ledger. It was a letter. The handwriting was Shen Jun's. And Zhu had seen enough grief to recognize the moment it stopped being private. Shen Yu's voice did not tremble as he read. If I die before presenting this, seek the woman behind the palace accounts. She is not stealing for wealth. She is feeding a faction large enough to move troops. The hall went so still that even the emperor's uneven breathing sounded loud. Zhao Heng's smile faded by the width of a thread. Empress Wei said, a dead man's suspicion is not proof. No, Shen Yu said, that is why he kept accounts. The Ministry of Revenue officials came forward one by one. Quiet men. Unremarkable men. The kind of men Phoenix Hall had ignored because they wore ink instead of swords. They confirmed the missing grain, the forged receipts, and the private warehouses attached to properties purchased through Auntie Fu's relatives. The third scroll was opened. Princess Lion. The name caused a different kind of silence. Some younger officials barely remembered her. Some older ones remembered too well. The seamstress aunt Rong testified about lamp oil inside the sleeve lining. Dr. Sun testified about the weakening powder sent to the princess's maid. A retired guard testified that the gate nearest the burned pavilion had been ordered closed from outside by Auntie Fu. Then the silk pouch was presented. Inside lay the charred scrap Zhu had found. One embroidered stroke remained from Princess Lion's private mark. The chief censor read the attached statement. Princess Lion was not killed by accident. The fire was prepared. The exit was blocked. Her body was identified before the imperial physician arrived. At last the emperor moved. His hand gripped the armrest. The gauze screen trembled. Empress Wei turned sharply. Your Majesty, these people wound you with old grief for political gain. The emperor's lips parted. No words came. But his eyes were fixed on the burned silk. And Zhu watched Empress Wei see it. Not the evidence. The memory. For one instant, the Empress's perfect mask thinned, and beneath it was not a mother defending her son. It was a woman furious that the dead had learned to speak. The fourth scroll was Rulan's. She walked forward alone. Madame Liang did not touch her shoulder. No one did. Some testimony had to stand on its own legs, or it would be called borrowed courage. Rulan knelt. I was ordered to approach His Highness, she said. I was ordered to perform weakness, affection, jealousy, fear. I was told lady and had to be turned into a blade pointed at herself. Empress Wei finally laughed. It was soft. Beautiful. Almost kind. A frightened girl says what her captors teach her. Rulan lifted her face. Then I ask your Majesty to explain the wine code. The hall shifted. Rulan placed 3 cups on the table. 1 red. 1 clear. 1 white. Phoenix Hall used servants who could not read. Orders were passed through wine color during banquets. Red meant approach. Clear meant withdraw. White meant make the target lose face. She looked at Zhao Ming only once. On the night, lady, and was nearly ruined before the court, I was handed white wine before I cried. The old Marchioness snorted. I wondered why the child sobbed before anyone insulted her. A ripple of bitter laughter moved and died. Then Enzu stepped forward. No one had called her yet. Duke En's hand tightened, but he did not stop her. She bowed to the Emperor's screen. Your Majesty, I request permission to submit the Cold Palace confession prepared in my name. The Emperor's eyelids moved. The chief eunuch bent close. A rasp came from behind the screen. Read. It was one word. Weak. But it was imperial. And Zhu unfolded the paper recovered from the archive. The confession was written in a style meant to imitate panic. It admitted jealousy. It admitted poisoning. It admitted attempting to seduce the Crown Prince while plotting against Rulan. It even admitted contact with Duke En's border men. It was everything Phoenix Hall had intended to need if Enzu had failed to defend herself. She read it without shaking. Then she lifted her eyes. This confession was prepared before the alleged crimes occurred. The hall erupted. The chief censor struck the table. Silence. Empress Wei's face had gone still. Too still. And Zhu said, if I had been foolish, it would have fit. If I had been frightened, it would have fit. If I had died, it would have fit best. Zhao Ming flinched as if struck. Shen Yu did not look away from her. The Emperor's hand trembled behind the screen. Empress Wei rose. Every pearl on her headdress glittered. Enough. The word cracked through the hall. You bring servants, cowards, bitter officials, frightened girls, and a duke's daughter who believes refusing marriage makes her righteous. You call this justice. Her gaze swept across the ministers. You think removing me will purify the court. You think the throne survives on sentimental truth. I kept factions from tearing this empire apart while men with clean sleeves waited for history to thank them. She turned to Zhao Ming. And you. The hall held its breath. Everything I did so you would not be devoured. Zhao Ming's face drained of color. Empress Wei's voice softened. My son, do you know what mercy is in a palace? Mercy is killing one threat before it becomes 1,000 corpses. Mercy is choosing who burns so the dynasty does not. Zhao Heng watched with bright eyes. This was the moment he had wanted. If Zhao Ming defended her, he became complicit. If he condemned her, he became the son who cut down his mother. Either way, the throne bled. Empress Wei stepped down from her place and held out one jeweled hand. Come here, Mingers. The childhood name landed like a chain. Zhao Ming did not move. The Empress smiled, and for the first time there was fear in it. Come here. The Emperor coughed behind the screen. Blood stained the white cloth at his lips. And Zhu closed her eyes for one breath. When she opened them, Zhao Ming was looking at her. Not asking for rescue. Not asking for forgiveness. Only understanding, at last, that no one else could stand in the place where he now stood. He turned away from her and faced his mother. Chapter 14. Zhao Ming denounces his mother. Zhao Ming had once believed the hardest thing he would ever do was give up the woman he loved. He had been wrong. Giving up Enzu had wounded his pride, his heart, his picture of a future he had polished until it shone brighter than truth. But this was different. This was bone. This was blood. This was the woman who had taught him to hold a brush, to bow without bending too far, to smile when ministers tested him, to speak like a prince even when he was still only a boy trying not to disappoint anyone. This was his mother. And behind her stood the bodies she had taught the empire not to count. Princess Lion. Shen Jun. Servants without names. Women prepared for ruin before they entered the room. And Zhu, in a life no one else remembered. Zhao Ming looked at Empress Wei's outstretched hand. When he was 6, he had taken that hand after falling from a practice horse. When he was 10, he had taken it after his first lesson before the grand tutor, terrified he had spoken too quietly. When he was 15, he had taken it after the emperor praised Zhao Heng's poetry and forgot Zhao Ming had won the archery trial that same morning. Every time, her hand had been warm. Every time, it had led him somewhere safer. Now it was asking him to step over the dead. Minger, she said. The hall heard tenderness. Zhao Ming heard command. He lowered his eyes. For one breath, the entire empire seemed to lean toward him. Then he stepped back. Empress Wei's fingers froze in the air. The chief censor stopped breathing. Zhao Heng's smile returned, sharp and eager. Zhao Ming knelt. Not before his mother. Before the emperor's screen. Your Majesty, he said, voice rough but clear, this son submits a memorial of accusation against Empress Wei. The hall exploded. Ministers shouted. Guards shifted. Someone dropped a jade tablet. Empress Wei stood very still. Zhao Ming continued. First, for abusing palace authority to construct false accusations against Lady and Zhu of Duke Anne's household. And Zhu's hands tightened in her sleeves. Second, for ordering servants to manipulate inner court testimony through Rulan and others placed near this son. Rulan bowed her head and wept silently. Third, for suppressing evidence related to the death of Princess Lion and obstructing an imperial investigation. The emperor's breathing grew harsher behind the screen. Fourth, for diverting military grain through Phoenix Hall channels and concealing the death of Shen Yu, who attempted to report it. Shen Yu closed his eyes. Fifth, for forging or permitting the use of false emergency military relay signals, risking civil war between the Northern Army, the Yuan family, and the Capital Guard. General Pei's statement lay open on the table like an unsheathed sword. Zhao Ming's voice shook once. Only once. Sixth, for placing the succession above law, kinship above justice, and this son's title above the lives of innocent subjects. Empress Wei laughed. It was not beautiful now. You think this makes you noble. Zhao Ming did not lift his head. No. You think they will love you for it. No. You think the throne will forgive weakness. At that he looked up. His eyes were red. But they were steady. This is not weakness. Empress Wei's face twisted. For a moment, she looked less like an empress than a mother watching the son she had built walk out of the house she had burned to keep warm. Everything I did was for you. Zhao Ming rose slowly. Then I refuse it. The words struck harder than any accusation. He turned to the ministers. I refuse any crown fed by false evidence. I refuse any protection purchased by the murder of my kin. I refuse the right to inherit if that right requires the court to pretend Phoenix Hall is the empire. Zhao Heng stepped forward at once. Elder brother speaks with great feeling, he said smoothly. If he doubts the purity of his own position, perhaps the court should consider. Silence. The word did not come from Zhao Ming. It came from behind the screen. The emperor's voice was ruined, but it still carried enough imperial weight to make Zhao Heng's mouth close. The chief eunuch pulled the gauze aside. Gasps filled the hall. The emperor's face was waxen. Blood marked his sleeve. But his eyes were awake, with a fury illness had not killed. Heng, the emperor rasped, you smile too early. Zhao Heng dropped to his knees. Imperial father, this son only. You received reports from Willow Shrine. Zhao Heng went still. Enzu saw it. So did Shen Yu. So did half the hall. The emperor's hand trembled as he pointed toward the table. Read the last packet. The chief censor hurried to obey. The last packet had arrived just before the trial began. It contained testimony from a border scout captured near Willow Shrine, carrying both Phoenix Hall coin and a private token from Zhao Heng's household. Zhao Heng's face turned gray. Empress Wei looked at him then. Not with affection. With calculation. Zhao Heng had used her false signal to prepare his own road. If Zhao Ming fell, he would present himself as the untainted son who could steady the court. The Empress understood it in the same instant everyone else did. Her smile returned. Cold. So, she said, the empire is full of dutiful sons. Zhao Heng began to protest. No one listened. The emperor coughed until the chief eunuch begged him to stop. He did not. Empress Wei, he said. The hall sank to its knees. Even she lowered herself, though her spine remained straight. You are stripped of Phoenix Seal pending final judgment, confined to Yang'an Palace, Anti-Fu to the Imperial Prison, all Phoenix Hall accounts sealed, all relay stations audited. His gaze shifted. Second Prince Zhao Heng confined to his residence pending investigation. Zhao Heng's face collapsed. Then the Emperor looked at Zhao Ming. For one impossible breath, father and son stared at one another through sickness, betrayal, and all the years palace walls had stolen from plain speech. Crown Prince Zhao Ming, the Emperor said. Zhao Ming bowed until his forehead touched the ground. This son is guilty of blindness. Yes. The word landed without mercy. Zhao Ming did not flinch. The Emperor continued, you will retain title while the court investigates the succession records and Phoenix Hall influence. You will hold no private command. Every decree from your hand will be countersigned by the censorate for 1 year. Whispers burst through the hall. It was punishment. It was mercy. It was survival. Zhao Ming's voice was low. This son accepts. The Emperor's eyes moved to Enzu. Every person in the hall felt the shift. Once, the court had spoken of a marriage between Enzu and the Crown Prince, as if it were a bridge between power and stability. Now that bridge lay burned by truth. The Emperor said, Lady N. Enzu stepped forward and knelt. Your Majesty, you have served the court. This subject served justice. An old minister hissed at her boldness. The Emperor almost smiled. Or perhaps pain bent his mouth. Name your reward. The hall stirred. Dukan's face changed. Old general and looked ready to refuse on her behalf. Shen Yu did not move, but Enzu felt his stillness from across the hall. Zhao Ming closed his eyes. He already knew. Enzu raised her head. This subject asks that no marriage decree be issued in my name without my written consent. Silence. It was a small request. It was an impossible request. Women had asked for land, titles for brothers, pardon for fathers, temples for dead mothers. They did not ask the throne to stop using their lives as rope between men. The Emperor stared at her. Then slowly he laughed. It hurt him. The laugh broke into coughing. But when it passed, his eyes were clearer than before. Granted. The word rang through the ancestral hall. Enzu bowed. Not deeply enough to look broken. Deeply enough to honor the moment. Behind her, Madame Liang's cane tapped once against the floor. Approval. Empress Wei watched from her knees. Her phoenix crown had slipped. One golden wing leaned, crooked beside her temple. For the first time in Enzu's 2 lives, the Empress looked at her without pretending she was small. You think you have won, Empress Wei said. Enzu turned. No. Her voice was calm. I think I survived. Then the guards came forward. Auntie Fu screamed when they dragged her away. Zhao Heng begged until his own attendants pulled him back. Empress Wei rose without assistance and walked toward confinement with her head high, because some ruins still remembered how to resemble palaces. Zhao Ming remained kneeling after everyone else stood. Enzu passed him on her way out. He did not reach for her. He did not say her name. But when she stepped beside him, he whispered, Thank you for leaving me a country to serve. Enzu paused. Then serve it. She walked on. This time, no one stopped her. Chapter 15. She chose the door, not the cage. Spring came late that year. No one trusted the first warm wind. The capital had seen too many gentle things arrive carrying knives. But snow melted from the palace roofs. Willow branches softened along the river. Merchants reopened their front shutters one board at a time, as if trade itself might be accused of choosing a faction. The empire did not heal quickly. It only continued. That was already more than many people had expected. Phoenix Hall was sealed. Its doors remained locked under censorate watch, the gold plaques removed, the servants questioned, The accounts carried out in boxes that took 3 days to count and 6 ministers to argue over. Empress Wei lived in Yang'an Palace now. Not as Empress in power. Not as prisoner in chains. As something colder. A woman stripped of the right to command, surrounded by walls that still knew her footsteps. Auntie Fu confessed after 9 days in imperial prison. Not from guilt. From terror that Empress Wei would let her carry every crime alone. Her confession confirmed the wine code, the relay forgeries, the prepared cold palace confession, the lamp oil in Princess Lion's sleeve, the grain theft, and the order to watch Shen Yu before his death. She denied ordering the final killing blow. No one believed her. Second Prince Zhao Heng was confined to a southern estate after his household token was proven real. His supporters called it mercy. His enemies called it a cage with better curtains. Zhao Ming remained crown prince. But the title no longer shone. Every decree he issued carried another minister's countersignature. Every audience included censors. Every bow offered to him carried memory beneath it. He accepted all of it. Some said he had become colder. Some said he had become wiser. And Zhu thought both were true, but neither belonged to her anymore. Rulan left the capital on the 7th day of the 2nd month. She did not leave as a bride. She did not leave in a coffin. She left in a plain carriage, escorted by 2 older nuns from a southern convent, and 1 guard appointed by Madame Liang. Before she departed, she came to an residence. Duke almost refused her entry. And Zhu allowed it. They met beneath the bare plum tree in the side courtyard. Rulan looked thinner. The softness that had once made people underestimate her had not vanished, but it had changed. It was no longer helplessness. It was a bruise learning not to apologize for being visible. She bowed deeply. "I cannot ask forgiveness," Rulan said. "No," and Zhu replied. Rulan's fingers tightened around the prayer beads in her hand. "I still want to live." "Good." Rulan looked up, startled. And Zhu's voice was neither warm nor cruel. "Living is not a reward for innocence. Sometimes it is the first honest thing a guilty person does." Tears gathered in Rulan's eyes. "Will you hate me?" And Zhu thought of wine cups, false tears, a prepared ruin, a girl cornered by women more powerful than hunger. "Some days," she said. Rulan flinched. But not every day. That was the only mercy and Zhu could give without lying. Rulan accepted it like a bowl of water after fever. When she left, she did not look back until the carriage reached the gate. Then she bowed once toward the residence. Not to Zhu alone. To the life she had helped damage and failed to destroy. Madame Liang visited the next afternoon and declared the household tea too weak. She then drank 3 cups. "The emperor has granted your petition formally," she said. "No marriage decree without written consent. Half the court calls it dangerous precedent." And Zhu poured more tea. "Only half." Madame Liang's mouth curved. "The other half is busy pretending they always supported women's consent in principle." Duke N, seated nearby with a stiff expression, looked as if each word cost him 10 years. "It is not that I object," he said. Madame Liang turned her gaze on him. "Wise of you." "I only mean," Duke continued carefully, "marriage can still be protection." And Zhu set down the teapot. A locked room also protects what is inside. Her father fell silent. Old General and coughed into his sleeve to hide what might have been laughter. Duke looked at his daughter for a long time. In another life, he had loved her too late. In this one, he was learning the slower work of loving without arranging. "Then," he said at last, "the door remains yours." And Zhu looked down at the tea. Her reflection trembled on the surface. For once, it did not look like a ghost. That evening, Zhao Ming came to an residence. He did not enter. He sent no formal card asking for a private meeting. He simply stood outside the gate in plain robes beneath the budding willow, with 1 guard far enough away to pretend the crown prince was alone. And Zhu went out because leaving things unsaid had killed enough people already. They stood on opposite sides of the threshold. The gate remained open. That mattered. Zhao Ming looked thinner than before. Less radiant. More real. "I came to say farewell," he said. "Are you leaving the capital?" "No." A faint smile touched his mouth. "That is why it is farewell." And Zhu understood. The boy who had wanted to keep her in a future, shaped like duty, was gone. The man before her had a country to repair and a mother to remember without obeying. He could not ask her to wait beside that burden. He no longer wanted to be the kind of man who would. "You will be watched," she said. "I should be. You will be doubted. I earned that. You may still become a good ruler." Pain crossed his face. "Do you believe that?" And Zhu looked at him carefully. In her first life, Zhao Ming's love had not saved her. In this life, his regret had not entitled him to her. But at the end, when truth demanded blood from his own heart, he had paid. "I believe you know the cost now," she said. His eyes reddened. He bowed. Not as a prince receiving refusal. As a man accepting an ending. And Zhu. It was the last time he said her name like a door he wished would open. "May your life be yours." She returned the bow. "May your crown belong to the people before it belongs to you." Zhao Ming smiled then. Small. Broken. But clean. He turned and left before grief could become persuasion. And Zhu watched until the willow branches hid him. Then she closed the gate herself. 3 days later, Shen Yu disappeared. The whole capital noticed, which was exactly why he had done it quietly. Rumors bloomed by noon. Young Master Shen had been rewarded with a secret post. Young Master Shen had been exiled for digging too deeply. Young Master Shen had run away to avoid marriage proposals from 3 noble households that suddenly found honest grief attractive. Young Master Shen had become a monk. That last one made Zhu laugh so abruptly, her maid dropped a comb. On the 4th day, a letter arrived. No seal. No perfume. Only Shen Yu's handwriting, spare and slanted. "I am going to the northern warehouses. My brother's accounts still have teeth." Below it, another line. "I will return when the last false receipt is dead." And Zhu read it twice. Then she folded it and placed it in the wooden box where she kept evidence, old warnings, and things that had once been pain before they became proof. He did not ask her to wait, so she did not promise to. She lived. That spring, and Zhu rode beyond the capital with Madame Liang's women to inspect estates formerly controlled by Phoenix Hall. She argued with grain officers. She frightened 2 magistrates into returning stolen land deeds. She taught Rulan's convent to send letters through merchants instead of palace couriers. She visited Princess Lion's memorial tablet when it was finally restored to the ancestral record. She stood beside Shen Jun's grave when Shen Yu's family burned the corrected accusation that had once stained his name. Shen Yu was not there. His younger sister cried anyway. And Zhu stayed until the incense burned down. By summer, the capital had learned a new habit. Before speaking of Lady Anne's marriage, people looked over their shoulders. Before using a woman as bait in a political bargain, ministers wondered whether Madame Liang might appear with 7 carriages and a cane. Before signing false accounts, clerks remembered that ink could outlive fear. It was not justice perfected. It was only a beginning. And Zhu trusted beginnings more than promises now. Autumn arrived with rain. The first storm of the season struck at dusk, turning the streets silver and the roof tiles black. And Zhu was in her study, reading a report from the southern convent, when the maid announced someone at the side gate. No title. No carriage. No formal card. And Zhu stood. She did not hurry. The side gate opened to rain and lantern light. Shen Yu stood beneath the eaves, soaked through, a travel cloak over one shoulder and a sealed ledger under his arm. His hair was damp. His face was tired. His eyes, when they met hers, were unbearably alive. "The last false receipt is dead," he said. And Zhu looked at the ledger. Then at him. "You came to report accounting. I thought it would sound less presumptuous than saying I missed you." The rain filled the silence between them. "Not empty. Waiting." Shen Yu's smile was not the old painted thing. It was smaller, less useful, more dangerous because it was true. "I have no title worth offering," he said. "No decree, no promise that life beside me will be quiet. I cannot give you a palace." "Good." He laughed softly. "I thought you might say that." Then he grew serious. "I can give you tomorrow, and if you want it, the day after. If you do not, I will leave by this same gate and still be grateful you opened it once." And Zhu remembered a cold palace door. A locked room. An unanswered plea. A life arranged around other people's choices, until death seemed like the first thing that belonged to her. Then she remembered this life. A burned sleeve. A blackened relay tag. A trembling girl who lived. A prince who stepped back. A father who learned to leave the door in her hands. And Shen Yu, standing in the rain, asking for nothing he had not already given her. Room. Truth. Tomorrow. And Zhu stepped over the threshold. Not because fate pushed her. Not because the court allowed it. Not because a man waited. Because she chose. Shen Yu went very still. She took the ledger from beneath his arm and handed it to the maid. "Dry that," she said. "Apparently it has teeth." The maid fled with a smile she failed to hide. Shen Yu looked at Zhu as if the whole empire had gone quiet around them. "May I come in?" he asked. And Zhu looked back at the open gate. Beyond it lay rain, road, palace, memory, danger, and all the lives she had refused to repeat. Ahead lay no guarantee. Only a room with lamplight. Only a man who knew better than to call her safety his gift. Only tomorrow. She held out her hand. "Yes," and Zhu said, "but I opened the door." And she did.